If I could only think of how to cut you away, I wouldn't be so frightened or scared to be enlightened. It's kind of difficult to keep my mind on a day that I didn't really mind it. It's in my face, I'll find it. The fields of colors bleeding and it's so far from home. The thoughts keep coming forward, I wish I wasn't so bored. Does it really matter if I'm dying alone? I often try to fake it, what's in my face I'll take it.
you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shit just won't go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shit just won't go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar, baby's got corrosion now, baby's got it.
Greetings and salutations from underneath the Denver airport. I'm sorry, those were Denver omelets. Let me see if that'll work. That's a little better. Okay. It's I, Uncle Warren. So it's me. Proper English not allowed around these parts, apparently. Good morning, everybody. Yes, the undercurrent starts October 1st with me and Lady P, Laney P, Lady Laney P. Will be if you liked her when she was doing Civically Minded on another channel. You'll like this. I think you'll enjoy it. And I get to tag along for the ride with news, and I get to help her out with some fun stuff too. We've been putting this together behind the scenes, and it's always fun. I always like building graphics and stuff like that, and making shit look nice, or at least try to make it look nice. And yeah, and wait, the Denver airport is about 45 minutes from Denver. Yeah. Oh, I thought it was like you were in Denver for a second. I was like, wait a minute, I'm freaking out here for a second, Willie. Or maybe I am freaking out still. Okay, I just want to make sure that I didn't just imagine that. Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be Wednesdays. Around the same time, this show is on 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Specific time. We'll be doing it on the ExtraBulla channel. We also, oh man, I am not prepared today. We also have another channel already set up. The Undercurrent for You is the name of it, at the Undercurrent for You, because there's a few on there, but you'll see it. It's a nice aqua theme. And I was putting some graphics. It's it's a very watery theme, like you're out in the ocean and now you want to go deep diving for all the good stuff, all the information, and where all the dead bodies are down below. Wait, what? Peace up. What's up? Thank you. Appreciate you. There we go. If you're on the YouTubes right there, let me see. You know what? Hang on a second. We can do this too. We have some stuff, news-wise, a lot of stuff, but we do have time for this. maybe. I don't know. So here we are there. That's the undercurrent with Laney and Warren there. And if you could, you could subscribe to us there. We got 10 subscribers already. That's nice. I think half of them is my alt accounts. And, and we're going to stream on here and various other places too. My Rumble channel, both of our Facebook channels, I believe. So we're going to be all over the place with this biz nasty. So that's October 1st. We're going to have Laney on the show soon. Let me get this over here to talk more about what we're going to be doing, and it should be a fun time. So let me shout out everybody else. We got Desert Mantis, Aqua. Oh, not OKWA. Thanks, Willie. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. And, just like everything else we do here at the ExtraBulla Foundation for special needs Gen Xers, we promote everybody else too. So be sure to subscribe to Laney on Facebook if you're doing the Facebooks. We're on there. And I know some people say, why are you doing Facebook? That's so lame. But that's a different branch of people on there that not a lot of them are in this space that know what's going on. So we try to give them the real without, cramming it down their throat. We provide it to them as a service. Michael's here. What's up, Michael? Good to see you. Of course, Laney. Appreciate you. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic in the house, cooking up episode 6. I hear it's going to be a loony episode. See what I did there? Willie, good to see you. Who else? We have Peace Dove and CBC Voter. Good to see you. Max Sarjay. Where's Miguel? You're on Miguel watch. You're always watching out. He is a quantum computer. And if he gets loose, humanity's doomed. Kate, good to see you. Good morning. And Mystery, the ladies, all y'all. I love when the ladies show up. It's like ladies' morning on a Friday, just like back in high school when you got pizzas in the shape of stop signs. Didn't taste good, but good enough. And that's how the oppression started. Peace stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it. So much. And I'm looking forward to my brand is shit. I'm spitting that news out, like I'm spitting out fat beats and tasty rhymes, only it's news that's not very hip, more hip replacement. So and Laney does the deep dive, she finds the really interesting stories that kind of brings you stuff from the communities, because I think that's what we need. We need to connect the communities, right? There are communities out there. We're just not talking to each other in a way that we should be talking to each other. And hopefully it's kind of bridges the gap for that in a way that I'm looking forward to. As long as we're helping people, that's all I care about. That's right. Laney had a cameo in Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show, his latest episode. So... yeah. So anyway, let's see. Oh yeah. Well, I need money because Daddy, I'd be tricking on the weekends and, some more getting tricked than getting picked up. So I gotta sell this shit because the man. It's Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast, ground coffee. And the blood of the innocent, I'm sure. Accidentally invented in prison by a guy trying to make toilet wine with his underwear. This exquisite concoction of broken dreams and shattered visions of the future will haunt your dreams for years to come. After escaping the Nostromo in deep space, it somehow made its way back to Earth and found its way into the anus of a cat, only to be shat out at a later date and sold as gourmet coffee. That's an actual thing. Do you have a hate-hate relationship with cash? Are there hidden treasures stuck deep in your bowels that only a liquid plumber type coffee can unearth? Well, then grab a bag of Desperation. It's Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast ground coffee found online and wherever Peter Thiel buys his adrenochrome. And remember, use promo code Grifter to pay that additional 20%. Otherwise, the grift don't work. You see? You know what it is? I think it was that black goo in those Alien movies. You know, when they found the black goo, the robot guy did. And he put it in that dude's drink. I would do movie reviews like that where it's just like some guy just he remembers a movie from like 30 years ago. Yeah, and then this guy went in there and he stuck his finger in this thing and then dude came out and whoa, it'd be like a 5-minute thing. Oh, well, welcome back, Mystery. Zell, what's up? It is a murky brew. It's probably forged in the fires of hell. Speaking of hell, the secret show tomorrow, I got more bells and whistles, so I ain't gonna tell you anymore. So you guys show up and you guys see it. We do a few things different than we usually do too. So anywho, that's enough of my yappering on that shit. We got to get to the bad news bears, right? Isn't that what you're here for? You're having a good day and you're like, man, fuck, I really want my day to start off shitty. Well, Hurricane Erin's still stirring up dangerous waves while it moves away from the East Coast. We'll have some video here in just a second. Hurricane Erin kicked up big waves yesterday along the mid-Atlantic coast and began a slow march out to sea after pelting North Carolina's Outer Banks with strong winds and swells that flooded a few places on the barrier islands. I'm sure it wasn't a swell time for them. I know. It was not time for a pun or any time. The storm will continue to bring the threat of dangerous rip currents and coastal flooding into the weekend from the Carolinas to New England, even as forecasters predict it will gradually weaken. Despite being twice the size of an average hurricane, Erin so far has managed to thread the needle through the Atlantic between the East Coast and several island nations, limiting its destructiveness. It's kind of like coming through. It's the first big storm of the year, and it's just walking through like the scouting mission, right? It's checking out, is like, because there's two more coming right behind it. Damage assessments were still underway on the Outer Banks, and more flooding could come during high tide. But it appeared the low-lying islands dodged widespread trouble during its initial brush with Erin on Wednesday. Tropical storm warning remained active on the island of Bermuda, where residents and tourists were told to stay out of the water through Friday. Tropical storm warning along the coast of North Carolina was changed to a storm surge warning to reflect the threat of rising water, while the one along Virginia's coast had been discontinued. And those who are not familiar with what storm surge is about, so think about this. Let's say you got like a big tub of water, right? Like a nice round tub, right? And you take like one of those fans, one of those round fans, like an oscillating fan, just don't oscillate it, and put it like right on top of the water and let it blow into the water. What it's going to do, it's going to push that water out in waves, like little tsunami type things, right? And basically what it is water being pushed inland, because it's just churning out there. Centrifugal force. Science! There you go. And let's get to the videos here. The dramatic videos capture Hurricane Erin's impact on the East Coast. So this is out of Baltimore, I believe. WBAL, the ball. Is this going to work? You're not going to work?
That's right. Right now I was.
Whoa, lady. You cool your jets. I don't know how this works. All right. Here we go. This is Tommy Clark, WBAL out of Baltimore.
I was standing on the beach, but if you look down, you can see I am now standing in water. This is what has been happening all day today. Lifeguards are patrolling all 10 miles of the beach. It's different depending where you are, but most of it, you can see the water is coming up onto shore, and this will continue for most of the day.
Right now, just craziness. I mean, this is just nature. It's awesome.
All eyes are on the Atlantic in Ocean City Thursday. People watching the waves crash down in the distance.
It's pretty rough out there.
Just north at the Indian River Inlet, the Coast Guard can be seen navigating the rough water. While in Ocean City, strong winds are whipping it onto shore, causing some beach erosion. The ocean is closed off due to dangerous rip currents and high surf.
There's no way, no reason that you want to go out into the beach, into the water. It's just not safe. We do have our lifeguards are on patrol out there on the quads, but don't put them in harm's way either.
Some folks choosing to disregard safety measures, causing a dangerous situation by walking out too far.
Even though we passed high tide, with the storm surge, the water's still coming up farther.
Most people, though, are enjoying the view from a safe distance, strolling the boardwalk and not letting the hurricane impact their vacation.
So we've found a good place to eat, and so we're just having a great time. You just got to make the best of the situation.
While Bayside, areas that typically flood are ponding downtown as the city continues to monitor the surges.
I'm thankful it's not hitting, any worse, that, what I mean, that it kept out to sea, and this is just cool to watch.
Precautions will remain in place. I spoke with Beach Patrol and the mayor. They both reiterated this message to me that tomorrow the sun may come out as the storm passes, but the rip currents could remain tomorrow and into the weekend. So it is so important, if you do want to get into the water, to talk to a lifeguard. Make sure it is safe before you get in. For now, live in Ocean City, I'm
All right, thank you there, Kate, or Nellie. What was your name? Oh, Tommy. Sorry. Wasn't talking to you, Kate, in the chat. Maybe I was. Maybe that is you. Maybe that's you in a parallel universe. So Erin's been a major disruption for coastal communities this week, causing dangerous conditions for more than 1,000 miles of the East Coast. Fortunately, none of the winds, maybe a little windy, but none of the hurricane force shit when it was at Cat 5. Ooh, that was some bad news, Bears. Hurricane made its closest approach Wednesday night as it skirted just 200 miles from North Carolina's Outer Banks. And this thing was huge at its peak. This thing was I think it was 850 miles wide. It was a big, giant-ass storm. Even without making landfall, it stirred up life-threatening rip currents that prompted dozens of rescues and sent rushing water and sand over coastal roads. Let's see some of this right here. Let's do it. You gonna do it? No? No? You're gonna be okay. Yeah, when roads turn to rivers, that's no good. Especially that's seawater coming in too. This ain't the river overflow. This is like salt coming in. Sea turtle nests washed away. Oh no, not the sea turtles. And then there's that dude doing hitting the waves. That was crazy shit. But yeah, hurricanes, even that far out, they are no joke. No joke at all. So I'm glad all my peeps over there on the East Coast, I hope you're doing okay. It looks like we're looking at zoom.earth, and this is it right now. Currently, it's a Category 1 hurricane. I think the Nova Scotia is the only ones getting affected, as well as Newfoundland and Labrador. That's what you get for having a fancy name. I wish I had the fancy music button. I'd play that. Having two names. Anyway, so it looks like it's making a beeline out to sea. And then once it gets to that cold water, it's just going to die out. But what it's going to do, here we got this little monkey right here. This guy, this crazy little beast. He doesn't look like he's doing anything. And I think these are the two that came over. So, but this one still has potential right here. So, because once these things, this thing went from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 within hours, I think. So once it hits, it's not hitting the super hot water like it is over here in the Gulf and the South Atlantic around here. Once it does, that's bad news bears right there. And that's your weather update brought to you by Desperation Brand Coffee. We'll see you in hell. All right, what do we got next on here? So And of course, with hurricanes, there's always fuckery. You know that. As Hurricane Erin bears down, FEMA still holding up millions in funds for North Carolina from the last one. Is that right? Yes, Riptide. Yes, I remember the nerd's name was Boz or something like that, and they had a robot, and they were on a boat. It was Perry King, and I can't remember the other guy's name. He was John Oates. That's who it was. No, I can't, as Hurricane Erin batters East Coast, North Carolina has been left in the lurch by a FEMA badly battered by the Trump administration. WRAL reported Tuesday that the Tar Heel state is still waiting on $13 million in federal disaster preparedness grants from FEMA. This is on top of the hundreds of millions of dollars in recovery funds for last year's devastating Hurricane Helene, which the agency has promised but not yet delivered. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein told reporters Tuesday that $85 million would begin flowing from FEMA to the state to fund recovery from Helene. That announcement came after Stein sent U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem a letter in July asking why she had not signed off on the dispersal of the desperately needed funds. Apparently that was her thing. You can't get any funds till she signs off on them. Applications submitted as far back as February 2025 remain without a final decision, Stein wrote in the letter, which laid out $209 million worth of Helene recovery projects still awaiting her sign-off. Further delay of these funds keeps communities and families in limbo, all while we are in another dangerous hurricane season. Yeah, and this one started off with a bang. We got lucky. Real lucky. Even though some funds are reportedly flowing, Stein says the government has yet to reimburse North Carolina for over $100 million. It creates real financial strain, especially on local governments, but also the state, Stein said in a press conference. Noem's leadership of FEMA came under severe scrutiny earlier this summer after it was reported that her policies hampered the agency's ability to respond to the devastating flooding that killed at least 138 people in Texas. In June, Noem introduced a new policy requiring all FEMA expenditures over $100,000, which is pretty much all of them, to be personally approved by her, which officials within the agency said led to the deployment of search and rescue teams being delayed for days. 2/3 of the phone calls from desperate Texans to FEMA also went unanswered after Noem allowed hundreds of contractors to be laid off just a day after the storm hit. Brilliant. The Trump administration, meanwhile, has implemented massive staff cuts to the agencies responsible for hurricane preparedness. It laid off hundreds of employees at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's storm laboratory, including hurricane hunters and researchers. Nearly half, I believe they hired a lot of them back, too, because of this hurricane. Fucking morons. Nearly half of the National Weather Service's forecasting offices have been left critically understaffed, with around a quarter lacking a meteorologist in charge. Yeah, you want to have a meteorologist in charge, wouldn't you? The guy who actually knows about the weather, or the gal. On the ground, there are about 20% fewer permanent FEMA staff responsible for responding to hurricanes and other disasters. Emergency training for those who remained on the job was also rolled back. Sarah Galvez, Climate Power Senior Advisor for Climate Urgency, says that communities in the path of Hurricane Erin are being put at risk thanks to the Trump administration getting the forecasting that people rely on during extreme weather. And that's the thing, is that, well, there ain't no hurricane, it didn't come on land, it didn't make landfall. Well, like, yeah, but still you have waves and people that live on the coast that have to deal with flooding and stuff. It's still a thing, and you still get some significant damage out of this shit. You can never take these things for granted like that. Since 1980, as the planet has warmed, the number of significant hurricanes classified as Category 3 or greater has doubled in recent years. They have also begun to intensify more rapidly as they approach landfall, giving forecasters less time to catch them and residents less time to respond. And one particular place in Louisiana, if you know what the map looks like at the bottom, it looks like a boot, right? So at the bottom there, the very south end of Louisiana, you have a lot of marshlands, right? And they used to be very vibrant marshlands. So when a hurricane would come through there, it would slow down a hurricane, at least kind of stall it a little bit and make it less weaker because it was, even though it was still, water technically, it acted like land where it would just like kill the momentum. And now, because of erosion, the marshlands down there are practically gone. That's the things you think that you're like, we don't need marshlands. Yeah, you do. You fucking do. But as part of a multi-pronged assault on climate science, Trump has also made it harder to track these and other disasters. In May, NOAA announced that it would no longer track the number of disasters, resulting in over $1 billion in damage. Yikes. Fueled by the climate crisis, Galvez said major hurricanes are only becoming more frequent and severe, but Trump's reckless actions have left Americans vulnerable and unprepared. On Tuesday, Representatives Greg Cesar out of Texas and Joe Neguse out of Colorado introduced legislation aimed at rolling back Trump's cuts to these agencies. As we continue to face increasing numbers of natural disasters across our country, wildfires, floods, hurricanes, it's critically important that we equip our communities with the resources they need, Neguse said. Whether it's the preparedness programs run by NOAA and National Weather Service or the response and recovery initiatives managed by FEMA, our federal agencies play a crucial role in addressing the increasing frequency of disasters. Or you can just go out, we can just go back to going out on our front porch and going, man, that storm doesn't look good. And then you're fucked, right? Oopsie sauce. No, that's why you fund that kind of science, right? Not to get into people controlling the weather too. That's a whole other kettle of fish we can get into on another show. Yes, indeedly do. So the gerrymandering dance between the Democrats and the Republicans continues. And I know you're like, well, Warren, you don't give a shit about elections on the national level. What's this? What does this have to do? Well, I do give a shit about it. I just know that they're not they're not effective in the ways that we, the citizens, want them to be. But you still have to pay attention to them and see what they're doing, and see, as I always say, what fuckery is afoot, right? So we start in Texas. As the Texas Senate committee advances GOP redistricting bill ahead of full Senate vote. So they passed it in their House. After all, the Texas Senate Committee on Redistricting voted Thursday to advance House Bill 4 to the full Senate with a favorable recommendation, setting up a likely vote on Friday, which is today. The controversial Republican-backed proposal, which passed the House in an 88-52 party line vote on Wednesday, aims to redraw the state's congressional map and produce 5 new GOP-leaning districts. Once approved by the Republican majority in the full Senate, the bill will head to Governor Greg Abbott's desk so that he can sign it in blood of children. The Senate committee approved the new maps by a 5-3 vote Thursday morning, with one member absent. The vote fell along party lines. Democrats have vowed to challenge the legality of the new map in court, arguing it undermines fair representation and dilutes minority voting power. Let's see. We'll get to Newsom here in a second. I got a whole thing on that. The Texas House vote came after a dramatic standoff earlier this month, when Democratic lawmakers fled the state to break quorum and block action on the redistricting bill. Their absence stalled the legislator, and effectively ended the first special session, delaying the measure for 2 weeks. That's all they did. They didn't stop it. They just delayed it. And they knew they were just going to delay it. If they knew procedure, they knew these fuckers just going to bring it right back. So theater. Greg Abbott called a second special session hours after the first adjourned, and Democrats returned to the House chamber on Monday, allowing the legislation to move forward. Yeah, so what was it? They went to Chicago and New York, and it's like, what was the point? What was the point? That evening, House Bill 4 passed out of the House Redistricting Committee on a 12-8 party line vote. To prevent another walkout, House Speaker Dustin Burrows imposed a rule requiring Democratic members to be escorted by Department of Public Safety officers, the cops, the state cops, if they wish to leave the Capitol. And we told you about the... Collier, who had to stay. She wouldn't leave with the cops, so they locked her in the Capitol. Right. So that's Texas. And here's Cali, the Captain Haircut here. U.S. lawmakers approved Democrat redistricting plan in Cali. And he's like, I'm going back to Cali. I think so. California state lawmakers have passed a legislative package, giggity, aimed at giving Democrats 5 more seats in the U.S. Congress, countering the partisan advantage Trumpy hopes to gain from the Republican bullshit in Texas. They were Porky Pig there. Fuck. California Democrats, led by Governor Haircut Newsom, voted on Thursday to approve a redistricting effort that will be sent to the Sacramento State House by today, just in time to place it on the ballot for a special election on November 4th. Newsom is expected to sign the legislation later. He was supposed to, yeah. While Republicans who have filed a lawsuit and called for a federal investigation into the plan promise to keep fighting to stop it. Good for them. They should talk to their brothers and sisters over there in Texas. Newsom, who enjoys a Democratic supermajority in both houses of the state legislature, ultimately seeks voter support for his plan. If it succeeds, it would neutralize the Trump plan in Texas. Republicans, including Trump, have openly acknowledged that the Texas effort is about boosting their political clout by helping to preserve the party's slim House majority in the November 2026 midterm races. That election is already shaping up as closely fought. That's right. Well, I mean, release the files, right? Half the Trump people that voted for him were like, hey, you said you were going to release them files. Say what you will, pettiness rules, and then people will be like, I ain't voting, not for you. Democrats have characterized their bid to depart from the state's usual independent bipartisan redistricting process adopted by voters in 2008 as a temporary emergency strategy to combat what they see as extreme Republican moves to unfairly rig the system. Yes, they're doing a shitty thing, so we got to do a shitty thing to counteract it. The decks are stacked against us, so what we need to do is fight back, California Senator Alina Gonzalez, a joint author of the redistricting plan, said as the state Senate opened the floor debate on the bill. Democrats say more than 70% of their newly drawn congressional districts were adopted from maps used by the Independent Commission in formulating the current boundaries. So there you go, Cali. Yeah, look at that haircut. Right? It's a little frazzled, though. He's got some split ends. He's feeling the heat. That Cali heat. All right. How's everybody doing? What are we doing here? Anybody sneak in? Anybody sneak in? No. Just our lurkers out there. If you like what you're seeing, you can see more tonight down in the corner. I'll be wearing the Little Bo Peep outfit, and I'll have the little thing, and you can be one of my sheep, and, well, or you can just like this show, and that's probably a lot easier. What's up, Kieran? Good to see you. Woolly Bully. Malcontents, you're right. Miscreants and ne'er-do-wells. That's all of us right here. Hooligans, if you will. Guess what? Healthcare funding in this country means you going broke. Well, guess what? More bad news for you as Supreme Court rules Trump administration can cut nearly $800 million in health funding. Yay, right? But then the American Medical Association will laugh at you for using herbal remedies that are much cheaper and much more effective. Ding! The highest court in the U.S. has ruled that the Trump administration can slash hundreds of millions of dollars worth of research funding on breast cancer, HIV prevention, and suicide. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like we're slashing prices, among other issues, in its push to cut federal diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. All right, whatever. That's their reasoning. In a 5-4 decision issued yesterday, the Supreme Court lifted a judge's order blocking $783 million worth of cuts made by the National Institutes of Health to align with Republican President Trump's priorities. The justices granted the Justice Department's request to lift Boston-based U.S. District Judge William Young's decision in June that the grant terminations violated federal law, while a legal challenge brought by researchers in 16 U.S. states plays out in the lower court. The order marks the latest Supreme Court win for Trump and allows the administration to forge ahead with canceling hundreds of grants while the lawsuit continues to unfold. The plaintiffs, including states and public health advocacy groups, have argued that the cuts will inflict incalculable losses in public health and human life. The NIH is the world's largest funder of biomedical research. The cuts are part of Trump's wide-ranging actions to reshape the U.S. government, slash federal spending, and end government support for programs aimed at promoting diversity or gender ideology that the administration opposes. The administration said Young's ruling required the NIH to continue paying $783 million in grants that run counter to its priorities. The Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, has sided with the administration in almost every case that it's been called upon to review since Trump returned to the presidency in January. After Trump signed executive orders in January targeting DEI and gender ideology, NIH instructed staff to terminate grant funding for, quote, low value and off mission, unquote, studies deemed related to these concepts, as well as COVID-19 and ways to curb vaccine hesitancy. Ways to curb vaccine hesitancy. Young's ruling came in 2 lawsuits challenging the cuts. One was filed by the American Public Health Association, individual researchers, and other plaintiffs who called the cuts an ongoing ideological purge targeting projects based on vague, now forbidden language. The other was filed by the states, most of them Democratic-led. The plaintiff said the terminated grants included projects on breast cancer, Alzheimer's disease, HIV prevention, suicide, depression, and other conditions that often disproportionately burden minority communities, as well as grants mandated by Congress to train and support a diverse group of scientists in biomedical research. Young, an appointee of former Republican President Ronald Reagan, invalidated the grant terminations in June. In a written ruling, the judge said they were breathtakingly arbitrary and capricious, violating a federal law governing the actions of agencies. Fuck that, though. Come on. During a June hearing in the case, Young rebuked the administration for what he called a darker aspect to the case, that the cuts represent racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ community. I've never seen a record where racial discrimination was so palpable, the judge said. Young also said the cuts were designed to stop research that bears on the health of the LGBTQ community. That's appalling, the judge said. The administration has argued that the litigation should have been brought in a different judicial body, the Washington-based Court of Federal Claims, which specializes in money damages claims against the U.S. government. That reasoning was also the basis for the Supreme Court's decision in April that let Trump's administration proceed with millions of dollars of cuts to teacher training grants, also targeted under the DEI crackdown. They're going to use that DEI as an excuse for everything, even the shit that isn't, especially the shit that isn't related to DEI. So, let's see. What's this one here? Yeah, so be all you can be in the military, but don't be a fucking rapist. 4 soldiers charged with sexual assault in JBLM barracks. That's the Joint Base Lewis McChord base in Washington State. 4 soldiers are accused of sexually assaulting a victim in a barracks building at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington. The Army confirmed. Private Second Class Duran J. Gordon, PFC Callan Curiel, Corporal Pedro Angel Ruiz, and Specialist Jaden Bosarge are accused of assaulting the victim on October 27th last year, said Michelle McCaskill, spokeswoman for the Army Office of Special Trial Counsel, in an email statement Thursday. Gordon, who faces a general court-martial on 2 counts of sexual misconduct, 12 counts of rape, and 1 count of each of conspiracy and obstruction of justice, pleaded guilty on August 5th. According to the Army trial docket, his arraignment and trial are scheduled for September 3rd. Curiel, who has been charged with sexual assault and conspiracy to commit sexual assault, is scheduled for a preliminary hearing today, according to the Army trial docket. A preliminary hearing for Ruiz, who faces a general court-martial for sexual assault, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice, is scheduled for September 26, according to the Army trial docket. His trial is scheduled for November 3rd. Bosarge has been charged with sexual assault and conspiracy to commit sexual assault, according to McCaskill. Information wasn't immediately available regarding a preliminary hearing for Bosarge. The Army has not released details about the victim's identity, and they shouldn't, obviously. I saw this, and it reminded me of one of our buddies here in the space, Poor Dirt Farmer. He's down in Florida, and he's always collecting these stories about the corrupt police down there. And you're starting to see that now bleed into the military as well, especially as these troops are being placed on American streets, which is, 30, 40 years ago, we would say, oh, that's just some dystopian future nightmare sci-fi movie that we can watch right now, But no, it's actually happening. And so we have to be aware of what the military is doing as well, especially as they're doing more of these civilian patrols in the cities and down on the border. He's sneaking these troops in all over the place, He's trying to do a sneaky martial law thing. What happened? Everybody okay? Did we lose anybody? No, I think we're all right. Meanwhile, we're going to war against Venezuela, I guess, because, chicken in a bucket, fuck it. Here we go. U.S. deploys warships to Venezuelan coast, raising fears of another regime change war. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm going to bring that up. The White House announcement Wednesday that it had deployed 3 warships to the coast of Venezuela has raised fears among anti-war and human rights advocates of the U.S. becoming embroiled in another potential regime change quagmire. I should say yet another, because there have been so many. In recent weeks, the Trump administration has accused Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro of being one of the world's largest traffickers of illegal narcotics and of leading the cocaine trafficking gang Cartel de los Soles. In 2020, Maduro was charged with narco-terrorism and conspiracy to import cocaine into the U.S., with the first Trump administration promising a $15 million reward for his arrest. The Biden administration increased that bounty to $25 million before Trumpy earlier this month doubled it to $50 million. Red and blue coming together. Trump also expanded the litany of accusations against Maduro, alleging that he is the kingpin of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, an allegation that Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says is bullshit, or toro caca in Spain. Nadia, hello. Good to see you. Oh, are you in Berlin? You're in Berlin? Guten Guten Tag to you. Welcome aboard. So President Scheinbaum said, yeah, that's BS. Even before Maduro's indictment, however, Trump had long sought to oust him from power. During his first term, he repeatedly suggested that the U.S. should invade Venezuela to take Maduro out, an idea that his top aides rebuffed. Apparently, these aides are like, yeah, we like that. He doesn't have aides. He just has, it's like an entourage, basically. Yes, men and women. Trump instead dramatically escalated sanctions on Venezuela, which many studies have shown contributed to the nation's historic economic crisis. His former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, explicitly acknowledged that the goal of these sanctions was to push the Venezuelan people to topple Maduro. Yes, squeeze it. You moved there in mid-July. I originally fled the U.S. in mid-January. Oh, wow. I don't blame you. I'd like to get out of here, too. Hi, NYC. Yeah, interesting initials, but now you're not out of the country, so it's like the New York of Germany. Welcome. Let's see. So Pompeo said, we were trying to squeeze the people to get them to take him out. In 2023, following his first presidency, Trump lamented at a rally that the U.S. had to purchase oil from Venezuela, saying that if he were in charge, we would have taken Venezuela over. We would have gotten to all that delicious, gooey oil. It would have been right next door. We could have just stuck a straw in it and just say, you have a milkshake. You have a milkshake. It brings all the boys to the yard. The exact objective of Trump's destroyers, which are expected to arrive on the Venezuelan coast as soon as Sunday, remains unclear, but the Venezuelan government and others in the region have perceived Trump's threats as a serious provocation. On Monday, Maduro said he would mobilize 4.5 million militia members following what he called the renewal of extravagant, bizarre, and outlandish threats from Trump. After the announcement of approaching warships, those militias began to be deployed throughout the country. Colombian President Gustavo Petro issued a harsh warning to Trump following the news. The gringos are mad if they think invading Venezuela will solve their problems, he said. The gringos. I would have called them crackers. They are dragging Venezuela into a Syria-like situation with the problem that they are dragging Colombia to. Colombia has its own problems, too. The American anti-war group Code Pink condemned the deployment of the ships as a reckless escalation that dangerously militarizes the Caribbean and brings our region closer to war. The group argues that Venezuela's role in drug trafficking is being overblown to justify an invasion. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. They note that the U.S.'s own internal assessments of global drug trafficking have not identified Venezuela as a primary transit country. Just like Iraq, they got weapons of mass destruction. We found tubes, y'all. They didn't have shit. The Washington office on Latin America, a D.C.-based human rights group, has warned that a regime change war would likely be a catastrophe on par with the invasion of Iraq 2 decades prior. Yeah. The victorious U.S. military would likely find itself governing an impoverished country with broken institutions, trying to hand over power to an opposition weakened by repression and exile, and probably facing an insurgency made up of regime diehards, criminal groups, and even Colombian guerrillas, they said. There is no evidence that this approach would lead to a democratic transition in Venezuela. These aggressive policies seek to extend U.S. dominance in Latin America, no matter the human cost, Code Pink said. The people of Venezuela, like the people of the U.S., deserve peace, dignity, and sovereignty, not threats, blockades, and warships. Right? And it's the same shit that they do with Cuba, right? So speaking of Cuba, Diaz-Canel and Maduro condemn U.S. military buildup as threat to Venezuela. So he's the president of Cuba, and you know this guy. At the 13th Extraordinary Summit of ALBA TCP heads of state and government, I used to go to those things, man. They were so wild, man. We would get so drunk. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel delivered a forceful denunciation of the Trump administration's latest measures targeting Venezuela. Diaz-Canel began by condemning Washington's actions as a clear breach of international law, accusing the administration of defying the UN Charter and ignoring regional agreements opposing coercion and foreign intervention. The imperialism in its demonic offensive shows no intention of respecting the limits imposed by international law, he said, warning that such policies threaten global peace and stability. The Cuban leader challenged Washington's justification for deploying up to 4,000 troops in the Caribbean, ostensibly to curb drug trafficking, which is ironic because it was the United States that started that shit. He described it as a cover for potential military action against Venezuela. This movement could facilitate actions under the U.S. law, specifically Title 50 of the U.S. Code concerning war and national defense, granting the president the ability to conduct military or clandestine operations without prior notification to Congress. Diaz-Canel explained. Damn, you got to explain American laws to people from Cuba. People from Cuba telling you your own damn laws. Wait, what happened? You had a YouTube channel? Hang on a second. I gotta do something here. I gotta turn you blue. We don't like white people. We don't do white people in here. Okay, there we go. All right. So, calling the rationale hypocritical, he added, the world's most narcotic state, the United States, promotes this false and disproportionate narrative. Of course, projection. Diaz-Canel urged nations to stand against what he called an irrational escalation, reaffirming Cuba's commitment to solidarity and resistance. We join Nicholas Alba, TCP, and all peoples of the world in condemning this Trump administration aggression, he declared, dismissing U.S. accusations linking Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to criminal organizations as substantiated and politically motivated. Referencing revolutionary figures Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez, Diaz-Canel underscored the enduring legacy of regional solidarity and resistance to imperialism. Fidel's multifaceted contribution to history and efforts toward the integration and unity of our region is immeasurable, he said, linking past struggles to the present fight for sovereignty and self-determination. Concluding his speech, Diaz-Canel called for vigilance, unity, and determination in defending Latin American sovereignty. The peace and coexistence we aspire to must not blind us to the dangers. We owe it to our history and future generations to confront the empire that seeks to subjugate us with unwavering conviction and unity, he said. So Maduro also condemned the U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean, calling it a direct threat to regional peace and a grave violation of international law. Iran's foreign ministry joined the criticism, warning of serious consequences for global security and urging the UN to intervene. Last week, CNN reported that the United States has started deploying 4,000 troops, primarily Marines, in Latin American and Caribbean waters, claiming the operation is aimed at combating drug cartels. Hotel Cartel Holiday Inn. The surveillance mission involves a nuclear submarine, P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance aircraft, multiple destroyers, and a missile-equipped warship. Sounds like an invasion to me. We're bringing democracy to Venezuela, y'all. Come on. Meanwhile, months earlier, a letter from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had surfaced expanding the interpretation of the U.S. military's traditional mandate to encompass additional missions. Hegseth stated that the military's role involves protecting the homeland, a duty that extends to sealing the borders, repelling all forms of invasion, including mass immigration, drug trafficking, human smuggling, and aliens from the briny depths, and other criminal activities. However, in 2014, the leaders of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, that's CELAC, adopted a declaration designating the region as a zone of peace, affirming their commitment to maintaining peace and cooperation in the area. So if you don't come in peace, you will leave in pieces. Yes, I know. That was from a Dolph Lundgren movie, I think. That's a great line. I come in peace, you'll go in pieces. You would think Arnold did that, but I think it was Dolph Lundgren. Whew. How y'all doing? We're staying in South America here for the next one. Homeland, Uber Allies. What's up, Pittsburgh dude? Good to see you. Sandy from Environmental Coffee House got her channel taken down. Oh no. Nadia, what was your channel? Did you have it? You have a channel? Do you have a new one? We'll promote it. We're nice people like that. Staying down in Colombia, or down in South America as we go to Colombia, 2 separate guerrilla attacks kill 18 in Colombia. Like I said, they got their own problems down there. The latest deadly attacks, which struck the southwestern city of Cali, and a coca farm in the north, pose fresh challenges to Colombia's fragile peace processes ahead of elections next year. Around 3 p.m. local time, a truck loaded with explosives was detonated on a busy street near a military aviation school in Cali, killing 6 people and wounding more than 60. Officials said there was a thunderous sound of something exploding near the airbase. 65-year-old eyewitness Hector Fabio Bolanos told AFP there were so many injured people. Eyewitness Alexis Atizabal said there were fatalities among people passing by on the avenue. Images shared on social media showed vehicles on fire, destroyed homes, injured people on the ground, and people fleeing in panic amid the sound of alarms and screams. Cali Mayor Alejandro Eder ordered martial law for the country's 3rd most populous city. He also announced a temporary ban on large trucks entering the city and called on the public to report information about the incident for a $10,000 reward. Defense Minister Pedro Sanchez blamed the attack on the Central General Staff, the EMC guerrilla group, led by warlord Ivan Mordisco. I'm sorry, sidebar. That looks like it says, I want more disco. Only saying, Ivan Mordisco. Now I can't get that out of my head. Ivan Mordisco. He's a warlord. The group broke away from the defunct Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC, or farce, if you want to call it that, after it agreed to lay down arms for a historic peace deal in 2016. Ivan Mordisco. Earlier Thursday in the northeast of the country, guerrillas from another breakaway FARC group attacked police overseeing the eradication of coca crops, which are used to produce cocaine and chocolate. Delicious. It's funny how you get cocaine and chocolate out of the... Armed with rifles and a drone, the fighters shot down the helicopter, killed 12 police officers, wounding 3 more. Antioquia, the departmental governor Andres Julian Rendon, got to put those rolling R's in there, told a press conference Defense Minister Sanchez initially blamed the attack on the Clan del Golfo, Colombia's biggest drug cartel. Clan del Golfo. But he later said the attack was the work of a faction that split from EMC, led by a commander under the alias of Calarca. This sounds crazy. Who doesn't want more disco? I know, Ivan Mordisco. That's how you remember that dude's name. Ivan Mordisco. Stop it. Many Colombia's armed groups, once based on leftist or right-wing ideologies, depending on what day it was, are now de facto drug cartels funding themselves through the lucrative cocaine trade. The 2 dissident groups blamed for Thursday's attacks both rejected the peace agreement signed in 2016 with the bulk of FARC after a 6-decade-long insurgency. 6 decades? God damn. They are also at odds with each other. Left-wing guerrillas, right-wing paramilitaries, and murderous cartels still control pockets of Colombia, but the country has enjoyed years of relative calm. But there has been a recent surge in violence that experts say demonstrates armed groups are regaining strength and the ability to carry out coordinated, complex attacks. Former top security officials have voiced concern that the Colombian intelligence services have lost a step and are no longer able to detect and foil plots. So, yeah, so Colombia is falling apart, it seems like. And that would be ripe for another, CIA coup there, too. Unless they already have their man there. Or they already have their man there. And it's going tits up. It's like, go get the other guy. We all know that oh, well, that's the next one. So, the UN rights chief urges protection of ICC officials after new U.S. sanctions. You can't go after the Zionists. That they'll get you. That's the message. The UN human rights chief on Thursday said the imposition by the U.S. of further sanctions on judges and deputy prosecutors of the International Criminal Court, that's the ICC to you and me, should prompt the international community to take measures to protect them. The relentless intensification of U.S. reprisals against international institutions and their personnel must stop, Volker Turk said in a statement. That's a hell of a name. I've tried to say that before and I always butcher it. He stressed that sanctioning judges and prosecutors at national, regional, or international levels for fulfilling their mandate in accordance with international law standards is an assault on the rule of law and corrodes justice. Turk called for a withdrawal of the sanctions against the 2 judges and 2 deputy prosecutors named on Wednesday, the 4 other judges and 1 prosecutor previously named, as well as the sanction on the special rapporteur appointed by the UN Human Rights Council on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories. In the meantime, I call on states to take immediate steps to protect all of them, including by taking measures to encourage corporations operating within their jurisdiction not to implement the sanctions against these individuals, he said. States need to step up to defend the institutions they have created to uphold and defend human rights and the rule of law. Those working to document, investigate, and prosecute serious violations of international law should not have to work in fear. So yeah, instead of going after the criminals, people are worried about the court that's trying to go after these criminals too. So you knew this, I knew this, we all knew this, but the UN is finally saying it, that famine has been confirmed in northern Gaza, Global Hunger Monitor says. So famine is occurring in the northern Gaza Strip and is projected to spread to central and southern areas by the end of September, a Global Hunger Monitor has warned. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, initiative said on today that famine was occurring in the Gaza Governorate, a region where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians live in northern Gaza, and that it was likely to reach the central region of Deir al-Balah and Khan Yunis in southern Gaza by the end of next month. After 22 months of conflict, more than 500,000 people are facing famine, a catastrophic situation characterized by starvation, acute malnutrition, and mortality, it said. Another 1.07 million people, 54% of the population, are facing emergency, and I guess that's phase 4, and 396,000 people are in crisis at phase 3, so phase 5 is the worst, I think. Conditions are expected to further worsen between mid-August and the end of next month, with famine projected to expand to the central Deir al-Balah and southern Khan Yunis areas. By the end of this period, almost a third of the population of Gaza, nearly 641,000 people, is expected to face catastrophic conditions. That's phase 5. while the number of people in emergency phase 4 will likely increase to 1.14 million, or some 58% of the population. This marks the most severe deterioration since the IPC partnership, which comprises 21 organizations, including UN agencies, NGOs, technical agencies, and regional bodies, began analyzing acute food insecurity and acute malnutrition in the Gaza Strip. It also marks the first time a famine has been officially confirmed in Gaza, I guess, by the UN. The IPC Global Initiative described the situation as a race against time, adding that famine must be stopped at all costs, and warned that acute malnutrition was projected to continue worsening rapidly. At least 132,000 children under the age of 5 will be at risk of death from acute malnutrition by June next year, it said. This number has doubled compared with the IPC estimates reported in May. This includes at least 41,000 severe cases of heightened risk of death. Nearly 55,500 malnourished pregnant and breastfeeding women will require an urgent nutrition response, the IPC initiative added. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said Gaza's famine was a man-made disaster, a moral indictment, and a failure of humanity of itself. Famine is not only about food, it's the deliberate collapse of the systems needed for human survival, he said. People are starving, children are dying, and those with the duty to act are failing. The UN chief said Israel, as the occupying power, has unequivocal obligations under international law, including the duty to ensure that food and medical supplies are made available to the population of Gaza. We cannot allow this situation to continue with impunity, he said. No more excuses. The time for action is not tomorrow, it's now. UN aid chief Tom Fletcher said Gaza's famine was taking place within a few hundred meters of food as aid trucks remain stuck at land crossings amid Israeli restrictions on commercial and humanitarian deliveries. Like drug cartels in the United States, it's Hamas there. Same rationale. It's a famine openly promoted by some Israeli leaders as a weapon of war, Fletcher told a press conference. In a plea to Bibi, Fletcher demanded that Israel end the retribution and open Gaza's crossings for unrestricted access. Let us get food and other supplies in at the massive scale required, he said. So they've finally acknowledged there's a famine there. I think they have acknowledged there's a genocide there. I'm not sure. I know several of the countries in the UN have recognized it as such. So these people are starving, man. And yeah, like they said, there's food right on the other side of these gates, and they won't let them in. They're starving these people on purpose. And they'll say, well, all those people are Hamas, right? It's they're all Hamas, so they all got it. Well, guess what? They're not all Hamas. In fact, leaked Israeli data shows civilians make up 83% of Palestinians killed in Gaza. What was that? Civilians, not Hamas. Statistics from a classified Israeli military intelligence database show that over 80% of Palestinians killed by Israeli forces since the start of the genocide in Gaza have been civilians. An extreme rate of slaughter rarely matched in recent decades of warfare, The Guardian reported yesterday, following an investigation undertaken in collaboration with 972 magazine and the Hebrew language local call. The Guardian stated that as of May, Israeli intelligence officials listed 8,900 named fighters from Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad as dead or probably dead since the start of the war in 2023. By way of comparison, Gaza health authorities have reported that 53,000 Palestinians had been killed by Israeli attacks during the same period, including fighters and civilians. This means that the 8,900 dead resistance fighters makes up only 17% of those killed, and the remaining 44,100 killed, or 83%, have been civilians. So there it is in numbers and percentages. But we know that. We know that they're killing women and children. The Israeli military database lists 47,653 Palestinians still considered active members of the military wings of Hamas and PIJ. I'm sure they do. While the Israeli press and politicians often claim the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers are inflated, Israel's military does not dispute the ministry's numbers and uses them in its planning. That proportion of civilians among those killed will be unusually high, particularly as it has been going on for such a long time, said Therese Peterson from the Uppsala Conflict Data Program, UCDP. If you single out a particular city or battle in another conflict, you could find similar rates, but very rarely overall. In wars tracked by UCDP since 1989, civilians made up a greater proportion of the dead only in the Rwandan genocide. Such a high proportion of dead civilians reinforces the widely held view, including among many Israeli genocide scholars, that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians. Multiple intelligence sources familiar with the database say the military viewed it as the only authoritative tally of militant casualties, The Guardian added. However, both databases may underestimate casualty numbers. Other credible estimates of the total killed in Gaza surpass 100,000. This is in part because tens of thousands are likely buried under the rubble, and tens of thousands more have likely died from indirect causes stemming from Israel's destruction of health and water infrastructure and harsh limits on the amount of food that can enter the Strip. In contrast to the military's numbers, Bibi has claimed that as many as 20,000 Hamas and PIJ fighters have been killed, and that the civilian-to-combatant ratio is as low as 1-to-1. Itzhak Brick, a retired Israeli general, says that Netanyahu's claims are bullshit. There is absolutely no connection between the numbers that are announced and what is actually happening. It's just one big bluff, he said. He says that according to officers serving in Gaza, he remains in contact with most of those killed he says that according to the officers serving in Gaza, he remains in contact with most of those killed were civilians. The scale of the killing was partly owing to the nature of the conflict, said Mary Kaldor, professor emerita at the LSE, director of the Conflict Research Program. Israel conducts most of its killings through airstrikes that regularly slaughter dozens, including entire extended families, at home while they sleep, to assassinate a low-level Hamas fighter or bureaucrat. In Gaza, we are talking about a campaign of targeted assassinations, really, rather than battles, and they are carried out with no concern for civilians, Kaldor said. The high death toll is also not surprising, considering the genocidal rhetoric regularly expressed by Israeli politicians, generals, journalists, and TV commentators. Israeli General Erin Haliva, or Erin, I guess it's Erin Haliva, who led military intelligence when the war began, has said 50,000 Palestinians should die in revenge for the 1,200 Israelis killed in the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, even if they are children. Yeah. While Israel blames Hamas for all 1,200 deaths during Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, most were likely killed by heavy weapons unleashed on the Gaza envelope area by Israeli attack helicopters, drones, and tanks, per the Hannibal Directive. Yeah, don't forget the Hannibal Directive. The Israeli military then used these deaths to justify launching a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Kind of like we used to 9/11, right? To go into Iraq. Wait, I thought we were going to Afghanistan. Yeah, but we're getting Iraq too. Wait, what? The old, sleight of hand, as it were. Red heifers. They rebuild that temple. They rebuild the Temple Mount. That's all Bible stuff right there. And then so the Antichrist sits on the throne, declares himself God, and that's when all hell breaks loose. London UK has gotten some flack for being in bed with Israel on so many things, and this is one of them. As London closing in on $2.7 billion contract with Israeli firm to train 60,000 British troops per year. Say they train the cops in New York, they train the cops in all these big cities. That's why they all act all militant and shit. And ain't none of them from the neighborhood either. They all live like somewhere out in the suburbs. The British Ministry of Defense, or the MOD, yeah, you know me, is preparing to sign a $2.7 billion contract with Elbit Systems, Israel's largest arms manufacturer, that would see the company train 60,000 British troops each year and be designated a strategic partner, according to a report by Private Eye. And see, that's the thing. When you see people saying, well, they're our partners, just be very wary of people who claim to be partners like that. That's our partner, our strategic partner. The British branch of Elbit is competing against U.S. firm Raytheon for the Army Collective Training Service contract. In February, the MOD reduced the shortlist to the two bidders. If the contract is granted, Elbit would oversee a sweeping overhaul of British Army instruction through digitalization, simulation, a different relationship with industry, and by changing how and where the military trains. How the military trains. Getting ready to crack some heads. This prospective contract follows revelations earlier this month that Elbit signed a $1.64 billion arms deal with Serbia to supply long-range precision rockets and other military systems. Last month, Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for Palestine, said that for Israeli companies such as Elbit Systems, the ongoing genocide has been a profitable venture. Indeed, indeed. Money, money, money. Money. Elbit supplies around 85% of Israel's drones and ground-based hardware, directly fueling its war on Gaza. Since 2023, Elbit's British arm has managed the MOD's Project Vulcan, a £57 million program. It's around 74 million American, providing simulation-based training for tank crews. The new $2.7 billion agreement would mark a major escalation of that relationship. In September, the government suspended 30 of 350 arms export licenses to Israel after a review found a clear risk of British-made components being used in violation of humanitarian law. However, export permits for F-35 parts, which are deployed directly in Gaza, were exempt from the freeze. Private Eye said it asked the MOD whether it considered it appropriate to hand such a contract to a company so deeply involved in the Gaza war, but the ministry did not reply. Elbit subsidiaries in the UK have been the main target of Palestine Action, which the government banned last month as a terrorist group. Oh, how about that? For spray painting some planes. They made them there was such terror with the paints, right? Let's see. Oh, where are we? Okay. So yeah, last one for the news block for you folks. India and Russia. Look what's going on. Set for a $100 billion trade target despite U.S. pushback. They do not want to see that. They do not want to see India and Russia all buddy. Stephanie spoke in class today. What's up, Stephanie? Good to see you, doll. India and Russia plan to increase their annual trade to $100 billion over the next 5 years, an increase of 50%, despite U.S. opposition to the growing cooperation between New Delhi and Moscow, a top Indian minister announced yesterday. During the first day of a 3-day visit to Moscow on Wednesday, Indian External Affairs Minister, I ain't saying that name or that last name, emphasized the need for India and Russia to broaden their trade ties, foster additional joint ventures between their communities, and more frequent meetings to resolve issues such as payment systems and very hard to pronounce names. Subramanyam Jaishankar. I'll say it once. Okay. Russia ranks as India's fourth largest trade partner, while India holds the position of Russia's second largest. We are all acutely aware that we are meeting in the backdrop of a complex geopolitical situation. Our leaders remain closely and regularly engaged, he said while speaking at the India-Russia Business Forum in the Russian capital. Jaishankar added that rising global uncertainty puts the emphasis back on dependable and steady partners. Partners! Watch out for that word again, partners. Finger man, you got gummies. You got gummies. Finger man. I already sang with Stephanie this morning, so my sing-song people are here. It's good to see y'all. Economic uncertainty has come from recent actions taken by Trumpy to punish India for its ongoing purchases of Russian oil. New Delhi's purchases of Russian crude skyrocketed after the start of the war with Ukraine in 2022. After its oil exports to Europe collapsed in the wake of the war, Russia turned to India, offering steep discounts. They all had like this. The oil had like these. They tried putting the stickers on the oil, but they wouldn't stick. So, in response, Trump has imposed a 25% tariff on Indian goods, saying the oil purchases help fund Russian President Vladimir Putin's war machine. Sorry. Trump has threatened to raise tariffs on India further to 50%, a rate high enough to ensure Indian exports to the U.S. will not be competitive. In response, India has said it has the right to buy oil from the cheapest source, calling the tariffs unreasonable. Following Trump's threats, India's state refiners began last week to buy large volumes of non-Russian crude. Indian Oil Corp and Bharat Petroleum Corp have purchased oil from multiple alternate suppliers in recent weeks, including suppliers in the U.S., Brazil, and Gulf states, for October delivery. Private Indian refiners are expected to continue purchasing Russian oil per the long-term contracts they have previously signed. Earlier this month, India halted plans to purchase U.S. weapons and military aircraft in response to Trump's tariffs on New Delhi's exports. India had been planning to send Defense Minister Rajnath Singh to Washington in the coming weeks for an announcement on some of the purchases, but that trip has been canceled, two sources speaking with Reuters said. In February this year, Trump and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced plans for the procurement and joint production of Stryker combat vehicles made by General Dynamics Land Systems and Javelin anti-tank missiles made by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. The sources told Reuters that India's defense minister was also planning to announce the purchase of 6 Boeing P-8I reconnaissance aircraft and support systems for the Indian Navy during the trip to Washington, which has now been canceled. Wah, 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 wah. Yes, my friend, you'll buy Russian oil. Yes, you not have to be in a hurry. How ironic, because it's Russian and thing. You're here for the music references? Sweet, me too. Appreciate it. Yeah, all right, you want a music reference? How about It's a Brick's House? It's Mighty Mighty. He's letting it all hang out. We got, what's next? Oh, wait. Did I not put that in there? Hang on a second. Please pardon me as I look some here. Wait, where are we at here? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, why didn't that make it in there? All right, we do have one more story. Sorry. So if you care about the Nord Stream shit, we got a little quick hit for you. As new details emerge on a Ukrainian suspect in Nord Stream sabotage. Telling all of y'all it's a sabotage. I can't stand it. I know you planned it. I'm going to set it straight this Watergate. German prosecutors, jawohl, have released, Oh, but you're not German. You're fine. German prosecutors have released new information identifying the Ukrainian citizen detained in Italy on suspicion of coordinating the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline blast. The suspect, named Seri K, is described as a retired captain of the Ukrainian Armed Forces with prior service in the Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU. According to investigators, he was directly involved in planting explosive charges that destroyed sections of Nord Stream 1 and 2 in September 22. Prosecutors allege that Siri K and his team launched the sabotage operation from the German port of Rostock using a sailing yacht rented under forged documents. Ooh, how deliciously espionagic. I don't think that's a word. The explosives were reportedly placed near Denmark's Bornholm Island, a central location in the Baltic Sea pipelines. He now faces charges of conspiracy to commit an explosion, anti-constitutional sabotage, and property destruction. Italian authorities arrested K earlier this week in the Rimini province, acting on a European arrest warrant. He is expected to be extradited to Germany to face trial. The revelations build on earlier reports linking the suspect to an elite Ukrainian unit that operated on behalf of Kiev in 2022. Investigators believe he and other servicemen were recruited in May of that year to execute sabotage operations against the pipelines, which had been a critical energy lifeline from Russia to Europe. The Nord Stream explosions marked a dramatic escalation in Europe's energy crisis, destroying a major route for Russian gas and fueling political tensions between Moscow and Western capitals. Russia has renewed calls for an international inquiry, arguing that the latest developments underscore the need for full accountabilities, right? Do you really care, though? You know, it was the CIA. They put those guys up to it. It was like a Bay of Pigs thing where they didn't do it themselves. They got like expatriates of Cuba to come in and do that shit. They probably did this. They got Ukrainians to do this, but it was the CIA doing that whole shit. So, how's everybody doing? Everything okay? We all right? We're good. Okay. You're 17 watching us over here on the YouTubers. Not quite sure. We may have our lurkers over there on Rumble and Facebook, which is fine. Not everybody has to be, chatty Cathy. So, Reuters staff is saying, hey, there's some pro-Israel bias. We're calling it out. What?
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Okay. Reuters staff accuse agency of pro-Israel bias in Gaza coverage. Reuters journalists have accused the agency of pro-Israel bias in its Gaza coverage, citing an internal investigation, editorial restrictions on terminology, and dismissal of staff concerns, according to a declassified report published on August 21st. Tensions between staff and management became pronounced in the early days of the Israeli genocide in Gaza when, according to declassified, several journalists said the coverage lacked objectivity and carried out an internal investigation into the agency's reporting. They investigated themselves. That's pretty good. The issues intensified after Israeli troops assassinated Palestinian journalist Anas al-Sharif earlier this month when Reuters published the headline, Israel kills Al Jazeera journalist it says was Hamas leader. Sharif had previously worked for Reuters, but staff said the framing exemplified a broader problem in the agency's coverage. Several employees told Declassified they believe Reuters' reporting lacked objectivity after October 7th. In response, a group of journalists carried out an internal investigation of hundreds of stories tagged Israel-Palestine concluding that more resources were assigned to Israeli perspectives than to Palestinian ones, despite the multitude of rights groups and experts condemning Israel's actions in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. The investigation also criticized editorial restrictions such as prohibiting the use of the word Palestine and limiting reporting on expert claims that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, even as Reuters covered similar allegations in Ukraine more prominently. How about that? How about that? One desk editor resigned in 2024, telling colleagues the company was actively stifling critiques. Following internal criticism, the British news agency updated its style guide in May to allow use of the word genocide with attribution, but the restriction on the word Palestine remained. Declassified found the term genocide appeared in only 14 of 300 stories between June and August, almost always accompanied by Israel's denial. Staff described this as a double standard in how allegations of crimes against humanity are reported. Dr. Asal Rad, a scholar at Middle East, a scholar of Middle East history, told Declassified, the pattern you note is essentially genocide denial. Yeah. Similar concerns over pro-Israel bias have been raised several times across other Western media outlets since the beginning of the genocide, with evidence of editorial interference and pressure on journalists extending well beyond Reuters. Declassified previously revealed that former Israeli Chief of Staff Aviv Kohavi met with senior editors of The Guardian, BBC, and Financial Times in London to, quote, cultivate support for Israel's war on Gaza. In February last year, The Guardian reported that CNN staff accused their network of journalistic malpractice, pointing to policies that censored Palestinian perspectives and subjected Gaza coverage to Israeli military censors. Back in November 2023, BBC journalists condemned their own outlet for omitting context, uncritically repeating Israeli claims, and treating Israeli lives as more worthy than Palestinian ones, and that's good. That's what needs to happen with the police departments. You need to investigate your own and not do this. I don't mean by like the official people. I mean like the actual cops need to be calling out their other cops and saying you are breaking laws. You're hurting people. You're doing this shit for empire, and I don't want to be a part of this shit. You know, so. But at the same time, they're being trained by Israel. So what are you gonna do? Was it the tree of liberty needs to be watered? Was it? So if there isn't enough division within the MAGA ranks, and I only point this out because Israel has become a very big sticking point in the Republican Party, a divider where people were promised America first, and all of a sudden it's Israel first. And then you have the other people who are like, oh, come on, we gotta support our they're surrounded by these evils and they're going to get destroyed and all this bullshit. So MAGA slams release of Israeli official arrested in child sexting. So this is, this is okay. Supporters of Trumpy's MAGA movement and right-wing U.S. citizens are demanding answers from Washington as to why an Israeli official arrested in connection with a pedo scandal was allowed to leave the country on bail. Kind of like why were the Saudis are allowed to leave on 9/11. Probably the same reason. DOJ should file federal charges and demand immediate extradition, said pro-MAGA podcaster Jack Posobiec. We need to be the America that allows war-torn children to come here for life-saving surgeries, and the America that never releases a foreign sex child predator that our great Leo's law enforcement officers caught. But in this circumstance, those war-torn children are from Gaza, and this foreign child sex predator is from Israel and works directly for Netanyahu, said House Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who recently has come out in stark criticism of Israel and its genocidal actions in Gaza. Tom Artyom Alexandrov, a senior Israeli cybersecurity official, was detained in an undercover operation in Nevada targeting child sex predators, according to an announcement made last week by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The official made a $10,000 bail payment and immediately fled to Israel. Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson told local media that the handling of the case was standard, adding that the U.S. State Department has denied speculation over direct interference from Washington. However, U.S. Attorney Sigil Chata, I don't know how you say that name, the individual who fled our country should have had his passport seized by the state authorities. He must be returned immediately to face justice, expressing outrage. Chata, an Israeli-born U.S. citizen who has made genocidal remarks in support of Israel's war on Gaza, faced backlash for allowing Alexandrov to leave. Alexandrovich. The U.S. Attorney General who released him is Israeli-born Sigal Chata. Makes sense now, said conservative U.S. commentator and author Candace Owens. The Israeli official was in the U.S. for the Black Hat Cybersecurity Conference. He was detained on August 6th alongside 7 others by Henderson PD, Nevada ICAC, and the FBI's Child Exploitation Task Force. According to the arrest report, 38-year-old Alexandrovich was arrested after agreeing to meet who he thought was a 15-year-old girl to engage in, sexy time. An undercover detective posing as a 15-year-old girl began speaking with Alexandrovich on a dating app called Pure, yikes, which has been described as putting sexuality at the forefront of frisky nicknames, hidden faces, and openness about kinks before switching to communicating on WhatsApp. Alexandrovich sent pictures of himself to undercover detective via his phone, spoke about engaging in sexual activity with her, and stated he would bring condoms to the meeting. The sexual contact included bringing a condom and taking the decoy to Cirque du Soleil, the police report said. Alexandrovich's next court appearance is set for August 27th, so next week. It's unclear how or why he was released and allowed to leave despite his status as a flight risk. The office of Bibi downplayed the incident, of course, saying the official was not arrested, only questioned. That, because they have so many. There's a high concentration of those kinds of people over in Israel, that's for sure. There's all maps and charts. You can look it up yourself. Bibi described him as an Israeli state employee who returned as scheduled. Court records later proved a formal arrest and felony charge luring a minor using technology, punishable by 1 to 10 years under Nevada law. Earlier this week, the U.S. State Department denied any government interference to secure the release of Alexandrovich, who works directly under Bibi's office. In 2020, CBS News released an investigation detailing how Israeli or Jewish U.S. citizens accused of pedo stuff often escape legal action by fleeing justice, making it very difficult to pursue them. The Jewish Community Watch, JCW, has referred to the phenomenon as a problem, you think, that reaches into the upper echelons of Israeli politics. The outrage amongst right-wing and MAGA figures in the U.S. coincides with significant tension over the case of Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire widely believed to have been an Israeli intelligence asset who collected sensitive information on top officials with the aim of blackmail. We have a story about him later. Steve Wolfbrand, what's up? Good to see you, Steve. On Wednesday, a U.S. federal judge... I'll tell you about that. So actually, let me get to that right now. We'll get to that later. Later in the block. So the guys like that can walk, right? Like I said, they let the Saudis go during 9/11 too. Privilege. It's privilege, and guess who was involved with both? Just saying. So, meanwhile, at the State Department, Aquaman is having a hard time keeping good help, I swear, as the U.S. State Department fires official over internal Gaza dispute. The U.S. State Department has dismissed its top press officer for Israeli-Palestinian affairs, Shahed Goreshi, following a series of internal disputes over public messaging regarding key Trump administration policies. One of the most contentious issues involved language opposing the forced displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, otherwise slammed as a plot to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. The decision came shortly after Goreshi proposed a statement to the media asserting that we do not support forced displacement of Palestinians in Gaza, a line that reflected past remarks by Trump and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. Despite previous clearance, department leadership blocked the statement, instructing staff to cut the line marked in red and clear, according to an internal memo reviewed by the Washington Post. U.S. officials said Goreshi's removal has sent a chilling message across the department, implying that any deviation from staunch pro-Israel language, despite being aligned with official policy, could lead to dismissal. Goreshi was reportedly not given an explanation for his termination. He expressed concern that the action raises serious questions about the department's stance on the possible expulsion of Palestinians from Gaza. Despite a strong reputation and close working relationship with many of my colleagues, I was unable to survive these disputes, Goreshi said, noting that the language he recommended had been clearly repeated since Trump's inauguration. The issue of displacement remains highly relevant, with reports emerging that Israeli officials have engaged in talks with South Sudan regarding the relocation of thousands of Palestinians. Experts assert that any such action under the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza would constitute ethnic cleansing and a war crime. And that's exactly what it is. But you can't call it that at the State Department. Come on, shh. Don't be like that. Don't you say such bad things. This is some wild shit out in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, where the bullshit swiftly down the plains. I'm not good at singing that stuff. As Oklahoma screening teachers from California and New York for radical leftist ideology. And remember, they make those textbooks down in Texas, too. They got some fuckery going on there, too. Teachers from California and New York seeking work in Oklahoma. God, were you being punished? Why would you leave California and New York for Oklahoma, where all the tornadoes are? Will be required to pass an America First test. How ironic. Which was created in Israel, designed to weed out applicants espousing radical leftist ideology. The state's public schools chief affirmed on Monday Oklahoma, which has a severe teacher shortage, persistently high turnover, and some of the nation's worst educational outcomes, will compel prospective public school educators from the nation's two largest blue states to submit to the exam in a bid to combat what Superintendent for Public Instruction Ryan Walters calls woke indoctrination. There you go. It's all woke. As long as I am superintendent, wait a minute, that's Oklahoma. As long as I'm superintendent, Oklahoma classrooms will be safeguarded from the radical leftist ideology fostered in places like California and New York, Walters said in a statement. Thing, and then he spit, and this magic spittoon opened and closed. Walters told USA Today that the test is necessary to vet teachers from states where educators, quote, are teaching things that are antithetical to our standards and ensure they are not coming into our classrooms and indoctrinating kids. However, American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten, you know her, or him, or her, I can't remember, is it that chick, warned in a statement Monday that this MAGA loyalty test will be yet another turnoff for teachers in a state already struggling with a huge shortage. The exam will be administered by Prager University, also known as PragerU. You know those guys. A right-wing nonprofit group which, despite its name, is not an academic institution and does not confer degrees. It's like, what's the matter you from Bullwinkle and Rocky? What's the matter you? While all of the test's 50 questions have not been made public, the ones that have been published run the gamut from insultingly basic, such as what are the two parts of the U.S. Congress, to ideologically fraught queries regarding the biological differences between females and males. PragerU's educational materials are rife with false or misleading information regarding slavery, racism, immigration, the history of fascism, and the climate emergency. Critics note that the nonprofit has received millions of dollars in funding from fossil fuel billionaires, of course. Of course. PragerU materials also promote creation mythology over scientific evolution and attack LGBTQ plus people, especially transgender individuals, calling life-saving, gender-affirming healthcare barbaric while likening its proponents to monsters. In one animated PragerU video, two children travel back in time to ask the genocidal explorer Christopher Columbus why he is so hated today. Columbus replies by asserting the superiority of Europeans over indigenous cannibals and attempting to justify the enslavement of Native Americans by arguing that being taken as a slave is better than being killed. Wow. PragerU videos. Closer to home, PragerU's curriculum aligns with so-called white discomfort legislation passed in Oklahoma and other Republican-controlled states that critics say prevents honest lessons on slavery, the Jim Crow and civil rights eras, and enduring systemic racism. The law has had a chilling effect on teachers' lessons on historical topics, including the 1921 Tulsa massacre, in which a white supremacist mob backed armed by city officials destroyed more than 35 city blocks of Greenwood, the Black Wall Street, murdering hundreds of black men, women, and children in what the U.S. Justice Department this year called a coordinated military-style attack. Responding to Oklahoma's new policy, University of Pennsylvania history professor Jonathan Zimmerman told the AP that instead of Prager simply being a resource that you can draw in an optional way, Prager has become institutionalized as part of the state system. There's no other way to describe it, he said, adding, I think what we're now seeing in Oklahoma is something different, which is actually empowering Prager as a kind of gatekeeper for future teachers. Well, then you just don't teach in Oklahoma. Steve G, what's up, buddy? Oklahoma is not the only state incorporating PragerU materials into its curriculum. Florida, Montana, New Hampshire, and Texas have also done so. New Hampshire, wow. Yeah, that sounds about right. That place is just, you got Vermont, right? You got hippie Vermont, and then you got, you know, crazy New Hampshire next door. Weingarten noted Walter's previous push to revise Oklahoma's curriculum standards to include baseless conspiracy theories pushed by Trumpy that Democrats stole the 2020 presidential election. I don't know if it's baseless, but whatever. Walters also ordered all public schools to teach the Bible, a directive temporarily blocked by the Oklahoma Supreme Court in March. The court also recently ruled against the establishment of the nation's first taxpayer-funded religious charter school. His priority should be educating students, but instead it's getting Donald Trump and other MAGA politicians to notice him, Weingarten said in her statement. Carrie Elledge, president of the Oklahoma Education Association, called the new testing requirement a political stunt to grab attention and a distraction from real issues in Oklahoma. Oh, please don't let me kick something. Okay, good. When political ideology plays into whether or not you can teach in any place, that might be a deterrent to quality educators attempting to get a job, she said. We think it's intentional to make educators fearful and confused. California Teachers Association President David Goldberg told USA Today that this almost seems like satire and so far removed from my research around what Oklahoma educators need and deserve. I can't see how this isn't some kind of hyper political grandstanding that doesn't serve any of these needs, he added. I mean, you know, it's like idiocracy. Oh, that was not good. Oh, you know. Why educate people when you can just run them into the ground in meaningless jobs that don't pay anything, right? Why do we need education for? Right? And at the same time, too, you have to wonder about some of these liberal schools, what kind of shit that they're teaching, and the fact that Is some of that necessary? Probably not. Why can't we just educate people, tell them the truth about what happened in our past? Why? Because there's too many people alive today that have secrets that are connected to all this shit. And they either benefit from it financially or from a standpoint of reputation, I guess, for lack of a better term. Guess what? Corporate greed at its ugliest. These 100 companies pay CEOs over 600 times what the workers get. Isn't this nice? Detailing the widening gap between outrageously high CEO compensation and the median wages of employees at some of the world's largest and most profitable companies, a progressive think tank on Thursday warned executives will continue to enrich themselves at the expense of their lowest paid workers unless policies are adopted to curb such corporate greed. Also, water wet, sky blue, film at 11. Across the political spectrum, Americans are fed up with overpaid CEOs, said Sarah Anderson, program director at the Institute for Policy Studies, IPS, and author of a new report out Thursday. Policymakers should take long overdue action to push corporate America in a more equitable direction. Yeah, good luck with that. The report, Executive Excess 2025, finds that absent federal policies forcing corporations to rein in their spending on stock buybacks and exorbitant CEO pay packages, the average CEO to worker pay gap widened by 12.9% last year at what IPS calls the low-wage 100, the 100 S&P 500 companies with the lowest median worker pay. Kelly Egregores, happy Friday to you as well. The average gap between executive and worker pay now stands at 632 to 1 at these firms, up from 560 to 1 in 2023. Between 2019 and 2024, the average CEO at a low-wage 100 company saw their pay rise 34.7%, unadjusted for inflation, while the average median worker pay rose just 16.3%. CEO compensation increased by 22.6% over the time period, far outpacing inflation. Meanwhile, wage hikes by these same companies didn't even match inflation, including for warehouse workers at software company Aptiv, where the CEO to worker pay gap was 2,072 to 1 last year, or cashiers at Ross stores, where the gap was 1,770 to 1. Ross. Aptiv CEO Kevin Clark was paid $18.8 million last year, while the median worker at the firm made just $9,052. Ross Store's pay ratio was similar, with CEO Barbara Rentler taking home $17 million compared to the company's median worker, who made just $9,602. Starbucks, which has made headlines in recent years both for its store employees' fight to unionize across the U.S. and for its executive illegal union-busting tactics, had far and away the largest gap between CEO and median worker pay in 2024, with CEO Brian Niccol taking home $95.8 million and the median employee earning just $14,674. That makes the wage gap 6,666 to 1 at the coffee chain. That's like evil in like more ways than one, because there's 666 in there twice if you read it that way. So this is from Warren Gunnels. Take this as you will. So there you go. CEO at Starbucks, $96 million. Median is $15. Coke, CEO, $28 million. Median worker, $14,000. Carnival Cruise, CEO paid $24 million. Median worker, $17,000. Chipotle, $19 million. Median worker, $17,000. A petition organized last year by Starbucks Workers United, which has unionized at hundreds of stores since a landmark victory in Buffalo, New York in 2021, warned Niccol that the cost of living across the U.S. is skyrocketing while you continue to make millions, and the employees who actually make your Starbucks run can't make ends meet. Yes, see Walmart, see Target, see a lot of these other places too. Ipps said the petition reflected the report's main finding at a time when many American workers are struggling with high costs for groceries and housing. The nation's largest low-wage employers are fixated on making their overpriced CEOs even richer. Contributing to the growing wage gap at the low-wage 100 is the company's focus on stock buybacks, yes, in which firms buy back their own shares to artificially inflate executive stock-based pay and siphon resources out of worker wages and productive long-term investments. The 100 companies spent $644 billion on stock buybacks from 2019 to 2024, according to Ipps, with home improvement giant Lowe's ranking as the stock buyback leader, spending $46.6 billion buying its own shares over the past 6 years. Yes, that's right, Ed. Chuck Ed. Aerosmith has a song called Eat the Rich. Not one of their better songs, but it's okay. It's no Love in an Elevator. They still have one of the best bridges. Going down. Ba-dum. That sum could have instead covered the cost of giving each of the firm's 273,000 global employees an annual $28,456 bonus for 6 years, read the report. In 2024, Lowe's CEO Marvin Ellison enjoyed total compensation of $20.2 million, which is 659 times the retailer's $30,606 median annual worker pay. Anderson said the report highlights how America's largest low-wage employers are funneling profits into their CEOs' pockets at the expense of both their workers and their company's long-term growth. It's your birthday, Finger Man? Yeah, happy birthday. But yesterday? Oh, you chemo celebrating today? Okay. Well, happy birthday, bud. Ipps pointed to three particularly promising areas for CEO pay policy reform, including subjecting corporations to higher tax levies if they have excessive levels of CEO pay, taxing and restricting stock buybacks, and using federal contracts and subsidies to discourage wide corporate pay gaps. Congress should pass the Curtailing Executive Overcompensation Act, which would apply an excise tax to companies with CEO to worker pay ratios exceeding 50-1, or the Tax Excessive CEO Pay Act, said the group. A May 2024 survey suggests that such taxes would be enormously popular, reads the report. Overall, 80% of likely voters favor a tax hike on corporations that pay their CEOs over 50 or more times more than what they pay their median employees. Large majorities in every political group support this approach. Some 89% of Democrats, 77% of independents, and 71% of Republicans. In swing states, 83% of likely voters give this proposal a thumbs up. Other legislation, the Stock Buyback Accountability Act, would quadruple the 1% federal excise tax currently in effect for stock buybacks and would have raised $6.3 billion from the low-wage 100 if it had been in effect in 2023 and 2024, enough to cover the cost of 327,118 public housing units each year for 2 years. We can curb this runaway source of inequality, said Ipps, by taxing corporate greed, which is all well and good. You can tax as much as you want, but it really depends on how it's being spent. That's the thing. So it'll be earmarked for this and this, and it's like, we don't know that. I'm for taxing. I'm for doing all this stuff that's like in a normal democracy would work, but we're not in a normal democracy. We have to change this system because the system is corrupt, right? It's like I keep saying, the people just want to keep driving the car, but the engine's fucked up. You have to change. If you can't fix the engine, you have to change out the engine, put a new one in. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. It's just car logic. So, and we told you before, a lot of these MAGA people are upset that they're not going to see the Epstein files. And well, another judge has put another judge has put another nail in that coffin as court rules Epstein grand jury transcripts will remain sealed. The U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York has denied the Trump administration's request to release grand jury transcripts and exhibits related to Jeffrey Epstein. This marks the second time a federal judge has rejected efforts to make additional information about the disgraced financier accused of sex trafficking public. Judge Richard Berman wrote that the government had not demonstrated any special circumstances warranting the unsealing. How about let's find out who these pedophiles are? He stressed the importance of maintaining secrecy in the case, particularly to protect the privacy and safety of victims. The U.S. Department of Justice will begin providing Congress with documents relating to its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein starting today. The decision follows mounting pressure from lawmakers and a formal subpoena demanding access to all relevant records. House Oversight Chair James Comer announced that the DOJ informed him it would start handing over the Epstein files by August 19th, though the department indicated it would require more time to deliver all requested materials. Comer noted in a statement Monday, "I appreciate the Trump administration's commitment to transparency and efforts to provide the American people with information about this matter." The original subpoena issued earlier this month demanded that the DOJ turn over all records relating to its probe into the disgraced financier. The move comes as part of a broader congressional investigation seeking to uncover additional details that remain undisclosed. Despite previous efforts by Trump to downplay the matter, bipartisan calls for transparency have grown. The House Oversight Committee has also subpoenaed former senior government officials, including Bill and Hillary Clinton and former FBI Director James Comey. Former Attorney General William Barr appeared before the committee in a closed-door deposition on Monday. Closed door. Additional testimonies are expected to follow as the investigation continues. The congressional panel's actions reflect ongoing dissatisfaction among lawmakers and the public with how the Epstein case has been handled. Tensions escalated last month when the DOJ concluded there was no client list and reaffirmed that Epstein died by suicide, sparking backlash from members of GOP's MAGA base. Speaker Mike Johnson has emphasized the importance of full disclosure, stating that there's no fear within the Republican conference surrounding the issue. Oh, I bet there is. I bet there's a lot of fear, not just from Republicans. Representatives Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have joined efforts to introduce a House vote aimed at declassifying the Epstein files. The vote is expected to take place when the House reconvenes in September as calls for transparency continue. The DOJ's release of the Epstein files marks a significant development in a case that remains a focal point of public and political interest. Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's like it's saturated the news cycles a lot to the point where people are like, I'm tired of Jeffrey Epstein. And so, well, you don't have to be tired. You can be tired of Jeffrey Epstein, but he's dead or he's somewhere else. He's not in the picture right now is basically what it is. And we have to keep putting pressure to get this information released, and I don't think it will. If it does, it'll be like that UFO shit. They'll release it, half of it'll be like darkened out, and you won't know what's going on, and it's just pointless. Yeah, it's performative, Chuck, big time. It's all BS. It's all talk, no action. Finally, in our propaganda watch, we go back to James Lee, who has he's talking about Costco and protein sodas, right? And is it actually protein? Is it the kind of protein you actually need? We shall see. Well, let's watch. It's a little long, but it's okay.
A new sparkling protein soda is blowing up on TikTok, but should we buy the hype?
Oh God, look at it. It's perfect.
Yeah, is this actually perfect, or is it just another engineered hype product designed to sell us more processed food? Let's look into what's actually in this miracle drink. They say each 12-ounce can gives you 30 grams of whey protein isolate, 0 sugar, only 130 calories, and comes in flavors like blue raspberry lemonade. On paper, the macros look pretty perfect. High protein, no sugar, low calories. But here's the catch. This isn't some natural, wholesome protein source. This is ultra-filtered whey protein isolate, a dairy byproduct that's been stripped down and processed until it pours clear like a soda. So in other words, this is not milk, it's not food, it's some ultra-processed industrial protein powder dissolved in carbonated water. Not, as I would say, ideal. And more importantly, is any of this protein even real? Because there's something called the Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score, and it is a method of evaluating the quality of a protein based on both the amino acid requirements of humans and their ability to digest it. There's a whole methodology and formula to calculate, which I'll leave the science people to explain, but what it essentially spits out is the percent daily value that you see on nutrition labels. For example, this Greek yogurt has 18 grams of protein, or 36% of your daily value. In comparison, this Beyond Meat product has 21 grams of protein, so more than the yogurt, but only 34% of the daily value, meaning that compared to the Greek yogurt, the protein used here in the Beyond Meat is lower quality and thus less nutritious. Now let's take a look at the nutrition label for Genius Gourmet's sparkling protein drink. 30 grams of protein, nothing about the daily value. I would say sus, very sus. And 0 sugar? Sounds great, right? But what's really giving this thing its candy-like flavor is sucralose, the same artificial sweetener in Diet Coke. According to recent studies, artificial sweeteners don't actually help with weight loss in the long term. In fact, they might actually increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. Meanwhile, other studies are showing that when your body breaks down sucralose, it actually produces a compound that can literally damage your DNA. Plus, natural flavors, which is just a fancy way of saying we're not going to tell you exactly which chemicals are in here. So how did this product go from an obscure Idaho snack company, a small business, to a viral, super viral sensation practically overnight? Because I don't know about you, but I'm seeing posts all over TikTok, Instagram, X, calling this product magical and life-changing.
Magical.
That's not quite what I expected, but it's good. It's pretty tasty.
But let's be honest, that kind of hype usually doesn't just happen. It's seeded. Because guess what? Genius Gourmet isn't some scrappy startup. I mean, you don't just magically end up with a massive pallet at Costco, one of the most exclusive retailers in America. The guy running it is a guy named Lance Rankin, the former CEO of Premier Protein, you know, the billion-dollar shake brand that took over Costco shelves years ago. Also the same Premier Protein that had a massive recall in 2022 for possible bacterial contamination. And Genius Gourmet, they're not squeaky clean either. I found this digging around. There's a lawsuit they've been hit with in California after their keto snacks tested positive for lead and mercury above the state's safety limits, which of course they settled without admitting any wrongdoing. And Genius Gourmet recently partnered with Hormel's Skippy brand to launch co-branded protein bars, which, I don't know if you know anything about Skippy, is probably one of the worst peanut butter products out there on the market. We're talking added sugars, hydrogenated oils, which can contain unhealthy trans fats and high levels of sodium. Which kind of tells you everything. This is not some kind of grassroots health revolution. It's actually just industry insiders who have been cashing in on protein trends for decades, running that same playbook all over again. And here's the kicker. Americans aren't even lacking protein. According to the Mayo Clinic, most people in the US meet or exceed their protein needs, with adults consuming on average 90 to 100 grams of protein a day, way above the recommended daily value. Yeah, the problem in our diet isn't too little protein, it's too much processed food. So you gotta ask, why are we suddenly being sold a fizzy protein soda as if it's filling some kind of massive nutritional gap, as if it's some kind of black magic? And the answer is pretty simple. It's not about your health. It never is and never will be, because it's always about creating a new trend, a new product to buy, a new way for, you know, the food industry insiders to cash in. So you tell me, is this protein soda really revolutionary, or is it just Big Food's latest trick to repackage a cheap byproduct and sell it back to you as a miracle? My name is James Lee. This is the
I'll go with the latter on
show.
that.
Let me know what your thoughts are about this new Black Magic protein water. Have you tried it? Sound off in the comment section below. If you want to support my journalism, please take a second to like this video, share it, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It really helps because, to tell you the truth, I could have made way more money posting about this product as an influencer about how awesome this product is versus actually looking into it. As always, appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next one.
Stop putting protein in every day. Stop putting protein in every day. Stop putting protein in everything. Just let a brownie be a brownie. Does a pancake really need protein? Does a Pop-Tart really need protein? Do potato chips really need protein? Just get your protein from chicken or beans.
James Lee, be sure to check out his channel. It does good work so far, but keep an eye on these little upstarts. You know, like, is this guy fed? That's what we should be asking everybody. You see a little boy or girl on the street and they're eating candy. You go, hey, you a fed? Who, me? Yeah. You say you're a kid, but I think you're a fed. Yeah, so that's it for the old propaganda watch. Thanks for hanging out for that. Don't forget, we got stuff coming up. Actually, we want to help our friends here. Our buddy Kevin over at Black Bear News, he could use your help. His GoFundMe's down below. Again, he lost his home in the LA fires, so any help you can do, either donate some money or if you can share out the links, that works well too. Also, we have our buddy Cowboy Kitty is doing this fundraiser for Natalia Vechikova, who's been dealing with ICE and needs legal help, and that costs money. So they're trying to raise $4,500. So far, almost $1,200 raised. That's pretty good. So hopefully you can help out with that. Like I said, if you can't financially, if you could share the link, that works as well too. And coming up this weekend, folks, you know what it is. It's this crazy shit. It's the secret show. It's secret and it's a show, yet we tell everybody, which is kind of silly, but you know, it's what we do. It starts midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, and the Book of Faces. It's a delicious time of year to watch The Secret Show. What's up, CBC voter? Yeah, so we're gonna do some fun stuff tomorrow night. I'm gonna do some dramatic readings too. It's gonna be fun. Of certain things you probably don't want to hear about, but it'll be fine. And some other stuff too. Cool music video. It's AI, so you're like, all right, but it's AI, but it's I think it's Star Trek. If it was 1980s Miami, I think is pretty cool. So yeah, come hang out for that. And of course, check out our buddies here that we're promoting here in the Bottomless Corner. And the Undercurrent with Laney P and myself will begin October 1st that's a Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time, right here on the usual channels here and other places as well. We'll let you know. Finally, today we got a twofer for you here. I saw these two and I said, well, we gotta get. You had some bad news. We gotta give people some good news, and I don't know if this is good news, but we'll see. As toothpaste made with hair naturally replaces tooth enamel. According to some weird scientists, this guy looks like Ming the Merciless. He's using hair. What the hell? It's ironic. He has no hair. He's using his own hair. As you can see right there. Toothpaste made with hair could damage. Okay. Scientists at King's College London discovered keratin, a protein found in hair, skin, and wool that is often used in reparative shampoos, can also help with teeth. We think this is a game changer and industry mover to introduce keratin as an actual product within our daily use to protect and heal your tooth enamel without even realizing. Dr. Sharif El-Sharkawi From King's Facility of Dentistry, Oral and Craniofacial Scientists told Sky News, if you have a micro crack or a very small defect, it would heal itself without you even realizing. Many tooth problems come from damaged enamel, which does not regenerate. Once it is lost, it's gone forever. When the keratin mixes with minerals in saliva, it produces a protective coating to mimic the structure and function of natural enamel. Fluoride toothpaste and fluoride added to drinking water are currently relied on to slow enamel erosion and mental facilities. But keratin-based treatments were found to stop it completely. Keratin offers a transformative alternative to current dental treatments, said Sarah Gamia, PhD researcher at King's College London and first author of the study. The treatment could be through a daily toothpaste, or a hair paste, I guess, or as a professionally applied gel, similar to nail varnish in more extreme cases. It could be made available for the public in 2 to 3 years, according to the scientists, and is seen as a more environmentally friendly alternative to traditional dental restoration. The test products developed at King's College were made from wool, but in the future, Dr. El Sharkawi said people could even collect their own hair to extract keratin. However, for the moment, the King's team is going with sheep's wool because it's highly abundant and it's a bio-waste. It's sustainable and it's good for the farmers. Because you want a bio-waste in your mouth. The toothpaste will look and feel just like standard fluoride paste with a minty flavor and foaming texture, but instead contain enough keratin for daily use. The aim is that we want this to be affordable and to reach the public, said Dr. El Sharkawi, I don't know how you say this, Dr. Teeth. We don't think this is going to be a premium product. We would like to get everyone to be able to access it. Well, you're going to need that hair toothbrush, you bald-headed dude, you Ming the Merciless looking, because, these hot dogs ain't going to eat themselves. Thousands of hot dogs spill across busy highway. Crews mustered up the courage to dispose of thousands of sausages, with the fire chief saying, I can tell you personally, hot dogs are very slippery. I did not know that. That's it. We're going to say that again because it's part of the story and it's fun. Oops, sorry. A truckload of hot dogs is spilled across a busy highway in Pennsylvania. A mechanical problem meant the truck scraped along a concrete divider, ripping the trailer open and scattering the sausages across the highway. It was the worst WURST Friday commute, oh God, that motorists in Shrewsbury had to contend with for years. Oh, there's more. Crews mustered up the courage to begin a morning rush hour cleanup and didn't mince their words. Once those leave the truck and hit the road, that's all garbage, and it's still pretty warm. Shrewsbury Fire Company Chief Brad Doberman said, there's them cleaning up the hot dogs. Oh boy. I can tell you personally, hot dogs are very slippery. I did not know that, especially when you try to throw them down a hallway. A front end loader was used to scoop up the wieners and drop them into a dump truck. And folks, when I saw this story, I did not relish giving this to you, but here we are. Sorry for the the puns. Okay. That's all I got for today. We got our goodies here. Come see us tomorrow night for the Secret Show, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. YouTube, Rumble, and the Book of Faces. If you want to contribute to the show, and I know some of you have, and I appreciate all your contributions, whether it's monetary or just love or whatever it is, sharing out the stuff, we appreciate it. If you want to become a Patreon, all the information is down below. You could be $1 a month, $5, whatever you want to do. It all supports the show, and you get your name and lights at the beginning of the show. And if you want to make donations on Facebook, you can do that as well. YouTube, I think, is where I can get them. I think I can get them on Rumble too, but if you don't have the money, that's fine. If you can share the links, I appreciate that as well. So, they're hiding the sausages. It's a cover-up. Yeah, so thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. See you tomorrow night. This show will be back on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and 8 a.m. Pacific Time. YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!